Each partner is either the one or practice for the one. I have different definitions of true love, and one of the least glamorous definition is whoever's worth the suffering. You can make all the money in the world, you can have the high status, you can have the jet, you can have the boat, you can have all the accolades. And if you haven't felt the fulfillment of true love, you will never feel truly successful.
I'm Layla Martin. I'm your host of This Tantric Life. This podcast is for you to learn about and be able to use the incredibly powerful system of Tantra in your life. I have been teaching and studying classical and neo-Tantra for over 20 years. And when you apply that to sex, love, and relationships, as I love to do, you end up having conscious relationships, the deepest, most epic and magical sex, and the kind of intimacy that you get to be grateful for on your deathbed. And I want you to have your own magical journey in your own way that takes you from wherever you are now to the most outrageous and true and beautiful expression of sex, love, and relationships that is available to you. Hi, and welcome to This Tantric Life. I'm so excited to share this conversation with you today with Annie Lala. So she is a cartographer of true love. This means that she maps the terrain of true love and shows so many of us how to get there ourselves. She gives us directions and guidance so we can find our way to the true love that we are destined for. She's also, in my opinion and experience, someone who has embodied true love in her own life. So in her late 30s, she found herself crying in the sand on the ground at Burning Man, giving up hope and accepting that possibly in her life, she would never become a mother, she would never find true love, she would never find her husband. And shortly thereafter, she met her future husband, Eben, and she went through quite the fucking journey. She will share parts of it with you today to become happily married. So over a decade later, they have a beautiful daughter love together. And I have actually witnessed a lot of their journey, their challenges, their struggles, and the way that they shine now, the way that they are a radiant lighthouse of a couple. And so much of that I attribute to Annie's depth of devotion to her partnership, to her marriage, to love itself. It is truly astounding. I can say personally that I would not be where I am today in the partnership that I am today as a sovereign woman who knows my worth and my power and who believes that true love is possible for me without Annie Lala. She has fundamentally changed my life. I know both me and Mama Gina would say that we would never be where we are without her coaching, her guidance, her sisterhood, her friendship. She means the absolute world to me, and I'm so excited for her to share her wisdom and vision with you so that you can also be initiated into these incredible teachings of true love that Annie has cultivated, nurtured, and transmitted within herself. Welcome, Annie!
Yay, what a beautiful intro. Yay, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah! All right. So let's start a little bit with, actually, I'd love for everyone to hear a little bit about your journey. If you want to take them to that moment on the ground in Burning Man, what happened, and then what was so challenging. One of the things I love about you is in your late 30s, you met a very challenging man, but you knew and you believed that he was your person, and you went through hell so that you could be in this beautiful, glorious marriage and partnership that you have today. So can you give us a little bit of an overview of that journey and how you showed up and how you got to the marriage that you have today?
Yes, and before I do that, I want to make sure I disavow anyone of any delusions that my beautiful, happy, glorious marriage is somehow perfect. We fight, every second week we're in some tizzy, and it's imperfect, and it's ecstatic and glorious and amazing. And we just came back from a 2-week trip with the whole family in Egypt. Like, we definitely have an extraordinary relationship, and it doesn't mean we don't get into conflict, drama, issues. The difference is I have a lot of tools. We've developed a whole toolkit of how to move out of conflict and escalating drama into de-escalation. And this is what I teach my clients based on. So make no mistake, every couple in love, including me, gets into fights. It's just how quickly can you repair and recover? That's the key. So yes, Okay, how did it start? Let's see. So I was 38 years old, not too bad looking, in the prime of my game, making good money, successful, but I couldn't find a mate for the life of me. And I didn't know what I was doing wrong. When you're trying to when trying to achieve something and it's not happening, the first thing we think is what's wrong with me. But what I've learned over time now is um, everything has its organic pace of unfurling. And I was, I just hadn't met him yet. If there's anybody out there who's like, what's wrong with me? How come I haven't met my person? First of all, don't give up, because I almost did. Literally 2 weeks before Burning Man, I broke up with the guy I was dating at the time, who was a psychotherapist at Columbia University, handsome, loved me, wanted to get married. Everything was perfect, except I wasn't in love. And here I am, a love coach, avatar of true love. I'm almost giving in. Like, literally, we went to look for wedding rings. I'd almost given up on finding true love because I was 38. And like, as long as they're good enough. But I noticed myself thinking, well, he's not bad looking. And if we get divorced, at least he could support me and the kids. Like, that's what I was thinking before I even got married. And I broke up with him because I'd had a deep meditative journey and realized I was selling out on the one thing I believed in the most, which was horrifying. So I broke up with him, went to Burning Man. I was with my friend in the middle of the desert, and I just broke down in tears, on the sand, thinking, I'm never going to find him. And the next day, I found a friend and I did a deep sort of private meditative journey where I got complete with my worst fear. My worst fear would be that I grow old, I never become a mom, which is the thing I want to do the most in my life, become a mom. And I wanted to be in love and become a mom. And I knew it should be in that order, but I couldn't find anyone to be in love with. And then I was like, okay, well, I need to be a mom. And what I mourned the next day when I did that deep meditative journey was, what if I never fall in love? What if I never become a mom? Could I make my life worth living? And then I had to work through that, and I thrashed about and howled and cried. And I basically came to realize I would be that cool old lady down the street that dressed in cool clothes and all the kids loved, and I would find a way to make my life amazing. So what I did is I went to the worst case scenario, befriended it, and then decided, well, I'm not going to give up, but at least I can cope if that happens. So I coped with the worst. And then literally the day after that, I walked into a dusty tent at Burning Man. All my friends were going to see some guy talk, a marketing specialist. I waltzed in there 2 hours late for the session that they were all going to, and he was still talking. And within 15 minutes of listening to him speak, I was like, who is that man?
Mm.
And I instantly fell in love with him. And, it took about 4 months before he really noticed me because we stayed in contact a little bit. But that was the moment I had seen a possibility of meeting a man who was basically more extraordinary than any man I'd ever met. And he ended up becoming my husband, but it took a while. I think, I don't know if that's what you want me to talk about, but I went from despair to coping with the worst case scenario to open to possibility. And there's more granular maps to explain there, but I just want everyone to know that you can't get what you want until you let go of the death grip of wanting to have it and cope with all the different possibilities. Doesn't mean you have to surrender to the worst case scenario. It just means you're not running terrified from it. Because when you're running terrified from anything, you stumble and fall.
Yeah. And that was part of my journey, right? So I've actually known you for 10 years and you had coached me on and off, and I was already deeply aware of your wisdom and you were already like a stand for me in the world. But when I uncoupled from Andrew, I literally, because you hadn't fully wanted to coach me professionally because we were so close, because we were friends. So I literally called you and I was like, I already PayPal'd you $10K. You have to be my coach now, and I won't take no for an answer, because I knew that the way that you could coach and teach on true love was unparalleled. I wasn't going to find the fount of wisdom that you hold anywhere else, and nothing was going to fucking stop me from having true love. And I think one of the things that you do that's so important is because you believe in it, it makes it possible, right? You get what you're willing to settle for in life. And so if you don't even believe that true love is possible, then you will do exactly what you're saying, right? Like, oh, he's handsome enough, and if we get a divorce, he'll take care of me and the baby, instead of like my whole fucking soul is here. Like I'm a fuck yes to this. So that initiation for me, that was like step one. Like this exists, right? And if it exists, then I can have it. But when
Yeah,
you
it's first
want
that
something, yeah.
yeah, you have to believe that it exists in the world as a
Yes.
possibility. So there's several levels of cynicism. One of my taglines is I help cynics believe in or skeptics believe in true love, whether they're in a relationship or not. And at first you have to believe that it exists in the world, possibly. Then you can believe it exists for me. And then you can take steps and learn how to go after it. You said earlier you get what you settle for. You also get what you stand for. And what I'm doing is trying to teach people how to stand for having a relationship that they never have to apologize for, they're not ashamed of. Even if your partner drives you crazy, which my husband does, drive me crazy regularly, I never feel like I'm settling. I feel like I can't stand him. I feel like I want to run screaming sometimes, but I never feel like I'm settling. I always know he's the most extraordinary man I've ever met, even when he's driving me crazy. And that's the difference. When you're really in love. And the reason I'm standing for true love and nothing less is because relationships are hard. It's work. It's really hard work. Why? Because you have two different people with different value sets, different histories, different perspectives. And you're trying to make a life together and tessellate these two different worldviews. And that takes work. And in order to make a relationship work, you have to surrender all of the cherished beliefs and truths that you hold on to so dearly. You surrender it on the altar of us, and you allow new truths to emerge that are collaborative and emerge out of the relationship. And that takes a lot of courage. And, I don't want to sell true love as like the hardest thing in the world, but my husband says it perfectly. He says it doesn't take a lot to be in love, it takes everything. And I want to have people equipped so that they don't get overwhelmed. And when they realize that this is a crucible, an alchemical opportunity to transform all your defense mechanisms, your wound driven strategies, your habits that are based on a childhood that, full of fears. Um, True love is the only force strong enough to emancipate you from your defense strategies into your actualized essence and your truest self. And so it's not for the faint hearted, it's a gladiator sport.
And that's one of the things you say that I love so much, right? It's climbing Mount Everest. It's one of the most challenging things you can possibly do. And it's such an important message because it keeps people in the game, right? One of the things that I love about you as a love coach is I have seen and known several couples that would say that they would not be together without you. They wouldn't have gotten married without you. They wouldn't have gotten to having a child without you because they would have given up, because the way that we are conditioned around marriage and around relationship is it's twofold, and you smash both of the illusions. Number one, that you should just settle, right? And so you smash the illusion that settling will work because true love, it has to be a strong enough force between you that it actually will emancipate you from your wounds and your delusions and the things that are holding you back, right? So that true love
It has to be
exists and you can
strong
have
enough
it.
to keep you in the game when every cell in your body wants to run and leave, because that's going to happen.
Yes. And you always say the person is your true love when you can't say no, right? Like that. It's such a
You can't
beautiful,
leave, basically.
you can't
It's a
leave.
trap.
Yes. And on the other side, you smash the illusion that then this true love is like a fairy tale, right? Like one of my favorite teachings of yours is that true love is this universal force. So it's like a diamond prism. And so every shade of emotion and feeling and truth and experience is contained within it. And what that does, I feel like for couples, is it allows them to have their authentic journey,
Mm-hmm.
which pretty much every couple I've ever met, especially couples that got through that 8-year bump and are now in this like glory 10-year plus period, they actually went through some version of hell. They went through some version of nearly leaving each other. They went through some version of incredible challenge. And what your messaging and coaching does is normalizes it, de-shames it, and keeps them in the game. Like keep going. And that keep going is so important. And sometimes in our culture, we don't get that message enough, right? It's like gets hard enough, just bail. And what we don't realize is then you just get to do it all over again with the next person.
Exactly. And I want to highlight that point. I don't, I've seen a lot of couples now coaching for 20 years, and I don't trust any couple, their relationship. I don't trust it until they've been to the edge of annihilation and back. That's how I know they've really mapped the full extent of their differences and their difficulties. And I do see love, and this quote I got from Diane Ackerman, I see love as the white light of human emotion. So when you shine white light through a prison, not a prison, but a prism, it breaks out into the spectrum, full spectrum of all the colors in the rainbow. And when you shine love through a human heart, it breaks out into the full spectrum of all human emotions, which includes joy, ecstasy, delight, happiness, excitement, all the way to sadness, shame, rage, despair, hopelessness. Love is all of it. And so when you say I love you to another human being, what you're saying is I am willing to feel the full spectrum of all those feelings. I'm willing to feel the rage, the shame, the agony, the despair, okay? The hopelessness. I can't tell you, there's been times when I'm in the middle of a fight. This was earlier on, like 10 years ago with my husband. We were in the middle of a fight. We were yelling and screaming, and I was just like, I have no idea how we're going to work. I just burst into tears and I looked him in the eye and I said, I have no idea how we're going to work. I'm in full despair. I was sobbing. And he looked at me and he said, I'm in despair too. I have no idea how we're going to work. And in that moment, I thought, okay, that's it. It's over. We're both in despair. And somehow, because we were both willing to feel and be in our despair, we found each other in our despair and hugged as we were in despair. And then the despair got alchemized and shifted. So even in the worst moment, if you're willing to be transparent and honest and fully be with the sensations, you can alchemize it and find your way back home. And so any feeling you're having, I like to say to couples, my clients, when you're fighting in the kitchen on a Wednesday afternoon and it's intense, that's what love looks like. That's actually what love looks like. It's not some other parallel fantasy dream where we're like all happy and hugging. That's part of love, but that's only one part in the whole spectrum because love includes it all. And so when you're having a difficult moment with your partner and you're at dinner and you're not talking to each other because you're in the middle of a tiff, instead of going, "Oh, I wish we would act like couples in love," I would love for the two people to go, you know what? We're having a moment right now, but this is what love looks like right now today at the restaurant while we're working through our stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about some of these moments that you then helped shepherd me through.
Sure.
Right? Because you helped teach me so much about love, so much about holding a man in dignity and care and heart. And when I went through my uncoupling process and was like, Annie, you got to coach me because I know that this is it. I know that I'm now going for true love. I will settle for nothing less. And I knew enough about my own history, my childhood, my unique karmas to be like, this is going to be a fucking uphill battle. And one of the things that happened very early on when you were coaching me was, I uncoupled with Andrew, and then I had been in love with another man, and we couldn't be together. So I was literally
you go on, though, I want to just mention when you said uncouple with Andrew.
Yeah.
You remember, we both agreed on this, that your uncoupling process had to be a work of art, and it had to be something you were proud of, because the quality of your shifting out of romance with him would govern their success in romance in the future.
Yes.
And you did it spectacularly, and I want to highlight that. If you leave a relationship with open bloody wounds and a decrease in self-esteem and dignity in both you and your partner, then you set yourself up for suboptimal future circumstances. So you did an excellent job of uncoupling, which set you up to have free attention triumphantly for your next relationship. So that was great. Now keep going.
Yeah, totally. So I was basically in double heartbreak because I felt like I had lost Andrew. I had lost this other man who I was literally in an obsessive, like, this must be my soulmate, quality kind of like, I don't know, hurricane of obsession with. So I felt like I'd lost both of them at the same time. And then I started dating this guy who, was like a stunt double in Hollywood movies. And he basically ghosted me right off the bat. So I went through my version of you're crying on the floor of Burning Man, or wherever you were crying at Burning Man, where I remember having a session with you and I was like, it's done, Annie. I was like, I will die alone with 40 cats eating my face. And like the 40 cats will be a blessing because it means that I haven't gotten so bitter that I quit my career because I helped everyone else have great sex and relationships. And it never happened for me. And like, I'm literally like, boom, I'm going to die alone. But I had to be in the misery of it first. And I remember in the coaching session, you were maybe trying to give me some feedback or uplifting, and I was like, don't try and help me now. I also had
Let
long
me stay in my
COVID.
misery.
So I was in depression from long COVID.
Yeah.
I'd been isolated. It was such a hard period. My dog is here with me, so he's scratching himself and generally being problematic, but we're going to keep rolling with it. And so I hit my own version of rock bottom with that. And I, over the next couple of weeks, had to make a true, deep, real peace with that possibility as well. And not a kind of, okay, I'd be fine, but I'm not really meaning it. It was like, if that is what the universe has in store for me, and it is somehow my dharmic path to teach this work, to hold such a high vision of what's possible for people intimately and sexually, but it never happens for me, could I still find the value of my life? Yes. Could I still be in love with the universe? Could I still belong to myself? Could I still find the magic of the stars and of nature and of plant medicine and my own clitoris? And I was like, yeah, like I could, like I really could. And in making peace with that, exactly as you said, I released the death grip, and instead it just became like a magnetic desire rather than like an iron fist of like, if I don't get this, I won't love myself. If I don't get this, I'll die. If I don't get this, I'll be bitter and horrible and hate my life, right? It was just like, come what may, I choose to love myself. Come what may, I choose to love this universe. Come what may, I can find the beauty of this life, the poetry and art of it, no matter what. So now I can stand for what I truly want and risk the heartbreak of not getting it. Because I think people sometimes think like, oh, I shouldn't be so terrified, right? Or I shouldn't, I should know that it's absolutely happening. But in this universe, we can never know. That's what makes us warriors of the heart, warriors of true love, is the fact that we have to stand for it, knowing that we risk the heartbreak of not getting it, right? Once you stand for it, then you risk the pain of knowing what you didn't have. If you just choose to not believe in it, you never have to face that pain.
Yeah, or losing it. I mean, your partner could die, every time you fall in love with something, something could happen. And the definition of an adventure, everybody wants an adventure in their life. You want an adventure? Yeah. You want a boring life? No. Okay. The definition of an adventure is not knowing how the story turns out. It's actually the definition. So the minute you say you want an adventure, you can't micromanage and control every outcome. And you mentioned something earlier about being willing to cope with not having it, even though you still have a preference. Coping with the worst case scenario does not in any way suggest that it's coming towards you faster. It just means you're not running away. And whenever you run away from anything, reality, the universe, God courts you by chasing you with it until you have a non-trigger response, because we're seeking wholeness. But there's something else you mentioned I wanted to speak to. Oh yeah, one of the reasons you were giving up and fantasizing about cat lady version of you is because there was an underlying belief that we were always dancing with, which had to do with your sense of deserving, worthiness, inherent value, and whether that was worthy and deserving of partnership. And a lot of our work had to do with working subtly and explicitly on your internal self-esteem, which is domain specific. You have very high self-esteem teaching around sexuality and tantra. What we identified is in this one siloed domain, you had challenges around your self-esteem about your value as a romantic partner in relationship.
Yes.
And you were relating to yourself something like, I think sometimes I called you peasant girl or servant girl, or I think we called you like the cashier at a grocery store or something. And I had to keep reminding you that you're a goddess, you're a queen, and something about the congruent and repeated reminder, I think eventually woke you up. I mean, everybody else knew it. Somehow you were failing to realize this.
Yeah. And I think, I still feel a little bit of shame saying this. And it was so true. Like I would have said 15 years ago, men are my Achilles heel, right? And I would have said 10 years ago, like I'm so challenged in relationship, I don't think it should be this hard. I would have said 5 years ago, I'm still behaving horribly in relationship. And I'm also, I had this beautiful, beautiful partnership with Andrew. We created so much. We changed the world together. We did such beautiful things together. I always knew in my heart of hearts that was not the pinnacle of what I could have in terms of love in this lifetime. And it was also very hard to leave because it was amazing, right? So it's like I had to leave a solid, beautiful relationship because something inside my soul knew that I was made for something even greater, right? Which is a choice you can only know inside of yourself. And it's amazing that I did that when exactly what you're saying is true. I had this wretched unworthiness, right? And it was a trifecta of being sexually abused by my father, who then abandoned our family, and all of the horror and terror of that, and then having a stepfather who was a truly lovely and amazing man, but was abused in his life and didn't want to abuse me, so had like a lot of distance. And so I felt unloved and cared for by the two father figures in my life. And then I grew up in suburban Colorado, where it was like you could never be thin enough, pretty enough, blonde enough, good enough, anything enough, right? So this like toxic perfectionism, right? You don't look like the women on the Cosmopolitan magazines. You're this and that enough. And then all of that combined for me to have this deep imprint of not being good enough, worthy enough, chosen enough, and all my nervous system imprinting of having shitty experiences with men, then constellated. So I kept recreating shitty experiences with men. So all of the evidence started appearing to back up my story. And that kept just, snowballing. And one of the great sadnesses and ironies of my life is I actually had amazing partnerships and boyfriends, right? I had amazing long-term relationships, and yet I fucking struggled in every single one of them because even if I was in partnership, that unworthiness was eating me alive. I didn't feel worthy enough to feel the love from them. I didn't feel worthy enough to open myself into the beauty of what was happening, and I was choosing things that weren't deeply and profoundly moving my soul because I was fucking terrified deep down inside of ever being hurt the way that my father hurt me again. So It was a process with you of being like, okay, I could spend the rest of my life blaming my dad, blaming my childhood, blaming suburbia, blaming whatever, Cosmopolitan magazine from 1996. But I don't give a shit anymore because none of those people have anything to do with me having the love that I want. What I care about is having true love. And so show me how to get there. And you were like, bitch, you got to start feeling worthy. Like you got to stop. Like my metaphor for it was like begging on the street for food when I actually own like a Michelin starred restaurant behind me. Like it's actually my restaurant and the chefs will cook me anything I want, any gourmet meal ever. And I'm just begging on the side of the street being like, please give me crumbs. Like that's how bad it actually felt sometimes. I didn't understand my value as a partner. And here's a big thing too. I had a lot of toxic conditioning that like my value as a partner had to do with how young I was, how beautiful I was. And I actually believed that my intelligence, because I got messaging around this in, Colorado, like was a liability. And you helped me see, no, like you are magnificent. And that it's your quality, it's your intelligence, it's your faith, it's your brilliance, it's your humor, it's your magic. Like that's what makes you worthy as a partner. And I really felt like you like held me by the scruff of my neck for years actually as I like thrashed around and then finally started to accept my own worthiness.
Yes, beautiful, and it was such an epic escapade to witness, and there's a subtle point I wanna pull out here. Not only were you deluded, completely batshit crazy deluded about your worthiness, because I could clearly see you as a magnificent contribution to any space you entered, and so did everyone else, but there was another piece that's more subtle. There's a part of you that didn't feel worthy and lovable that actually had an intelligence, and I want to call this out. Mama Gina also had this pattern, and because there was ways in which you were unconsciously treating men and acting towards men in love relationships that were habits and weren't crafted from scratch from the cutting edge of your intelligence and your emotional finesse. They were old patterns of getting bitchy, getting demanding, getting manipulative, getting angry when they didn't call you back or text you back. And I had to keep bitch slapping you and waking you up. How can you press love into this wound? How can you react with maximal love? How can you behave so that you can sign your name to triumphantly? Because every time you acted in a way that wasn't reflective of your magnificence and your beauty, you'd feel unconsciously an internal shame twitch or flag that would reduce, understandably, your self-esteem. So what we're training you to do is to start behaving in a way that you were proud of, that you could sign your name to, that you would happily portray on a reality TV show for everyone to see and go, yeah, watch me. This is how a queen behaves. And you started to behave like a queen, and I think your self-esteem started to raise because you were actually acting in a way that you admired.
Yes. Yes. That is a huge part of it. And you really helped me to see that one of the reasons why I've been so wildly successful in my career, in community, in life, in play, in my love for myself and my spirituality is because, to use your phrasing, I create from scratch. I'm an artist of life. I'm an artist in my business. I'm an artist in my teachings. I'm an artist when I show up at Burning Man. I'm an artist at a party, right? But in relationship, it was just straight default to conditioning, straight default to pain, to sadness, to wounding, to stories of how unworthy I was. And I think it's so instrumental to really share that, like, worthiness is all an inside game. And when I was so convinced that I was that unworthy, I had that reflected to me in spades. I had, Andrew suddenly breaking up with me in 2020. I had boyfriends who said horrific stuff to me, and that happens anyways, like that just happens out in the world. And for sure, my unworthiness complex was creating this shield around me that was having reality reflect back to me how I felt about myself. And as soon as I resolved at least some of the depth of that unworthiness shadow, like night and day, all of a sudden, the men that I was attracting into my life, the level of suitors, the level of match I was having, all of a sudden it literally went from like, can't get laid, getting ghosted, who are these like low quality men, to just literally like the sexiest, most eligible bachelors on the planet, fucking spades of them. It's wild.
Fighting over you. I remember a party where like the three most eligible bachelors at the party were all fighting over you. And that's just how I know you. That's how I see you. So when your reality started matching how I would expect, then I knew your self-esteem was getting shifted. But there's another point here that I want to bring out that you also cultivated. We were cultivating in you the skill of, which you have in spades everywhere else in your life, proactive leader. If you want a business plan done, you lead it. If you want a new conversation happening at a party, you lead it. You're such a creatrix. But in your romantic relationships, you were doing this move. Well, what is he thinking? Well, what does he want? Well, I'm so contingent on the man and we'll see. And I'm like, bitch, if you want it to happen, you have to lead it. You have to hold the vision. I want this to work. And he will smell and feel your visioning and your determination without being manipulative. It was just literally the way Steve Jobs hold a vision for the iPhone. You had to hold the vision of the relationship and then lovingly stand for it without making anyone wrong. And up until then, you were at the whim and mercy of your partner rather than the proactive visionary leader. And that's what I think shifted as well.
And that's such a potent teaching, right? Because so many people get stuck in that place of all genders, but I know so many women can really relate to this of being like, does he love me? Will I be chosen? Will someone marry me? Right? Like over and over and over again, you're stuck in that. And like a please, again, that's like a version of the begging for crumbs. Yeah. And the thing about holding the vision, being like, I want this, this is happening, this is true love, this is epic partnership, is what it does for you is, number one, yes, makes you so much more capable of creating that in your life. But number two, you actually start to develop the confidence of trust in yourself. That's like, well, if this didn't work out for some reason, I'm now creating this no matter what, right? Which it's like, It would have been the equivalent of me being like, will someone please give me permission to teach sex magic and G-spot orgasms and like Kundalini clitoral or Kundalini cervical activation to the internet? You know, like, who's going to give me that permission? No, you just go fucking do it, right? And the thing is, with that kind of audacity, it was like, if someone tries to stop me or this doesn't work out, I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to find some other way. I'm going to problem solve it. I'm going to iterate until I get what I want, right? And so that switch that you initiated in me also gave me this confidence where I was like, look, if this isn't the person or this isn't the thing, I'm now destined for it because I'm so committed to creating it. I'm not sitting there being like, oh, is some man gonna choose me and make me worthy of partnership? It's like, no, I'm motherfucking magnetic to partnership and I'm creating it no matter what. And that also helped me stop being so like terrified all the time that it wasn't gonna work out, which kind of makes it not work out. You start to sabotage if you're that convinced and terrified that it really won't. If you're watching this Tantric Life, I know that you are interested in applying Tantra into your everyday experience. So I created a 21-day training called Magnetic that actually activates your radiant sexual aroused from the inside out. So this is designed to unleash your sexual energy. So I train you in very simple techniques that are 2 to 3 minutes a day. Things like breath work, sensual movement, activating your body through sound, mirror work practices to enhance your self-confidence in the way that you speak to yourself, self-love practices like writing your pussy a love letter, things that are going to light you up from the inside out and totally raise your vibration so that you can be ultra magnetic to whoever you want to be sexy to, be it a long-term partner, be it new lovers, be it people in the dating field, whoever it is that you want to attract. This is designed to enhance who you are as a sexual being so you can not only come alive to your sexual turn on, have the best sex and the best relationships of your life, but also to feel turned on and lit up creatively with that special spark that only your sexuality can give you. So if you want to sign up for this training, it's totally free. You can head over to laylamartin.com/magnetic. Get signed up today. We'll send you the training every single day for 21 days. It's truly a life-changing training, and I'm so excited to see you in there.
Totally. And in, heteronormative relationships, what a man is looking for, whether he realizes it or not, his evolutionary internal chimpanzee wiring is having him scan and look for a leader for his future family. Right? You don't want to be the short-term dating girl where you're just a one-night stand. Well, maybe, and that's fine too. But if you're actually looking for a lifetime partnership, a man is scanning for the woman that can lead his family into the best future. He's looking for a leader. So if you can't even lead this relationship into something based on your vision of intimacy, what use are you? So a lot of my work is helping women realize how and where they're not taking the opportunity and the responsibility for being the visionary leader. They're waiting for someone else to lead. And males display, in the animal world, males display their gifts and their resources, and females choose. Whether you're a penguin or a fox or any mammal, and even in the egg and the sperm, a whole bunch of sperm are courting the egg, and the egg's like, no, 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 yes. It's always the female that chooses, and it's always the female that governs the success of a relationship. A lot of women are like, oh, he left me. Oh, no. And I'm like, girl, if you really wanted that relationship, you would have it right now. Either the woman leaves or she subcontracts it out to the man. And oftentimes women who don't feel worthy or aren't able to find themselves happy in a relationship, a man just looks at that and goes, okay, my job is to help a woman feel triumphant and happy with me. If she's not triumphant and happy, the best way of loving her is to peace out and give her a chance to be with someone else. So it's always up to the woman whether the man stays or goes. So I want women to take back their power and realize that if they want something to happen, they have to create it and they have to lead with their vision. And they have to inspire their partner, not coerce, manipulate, give them ultimatums. You better marry me, shit, or I get off the pot. That doesn't work at all. You have to use feminine leadership, which is more inspirational and motivational and more like a seduction.
Yeah.
If you're the most amazing, safest place on the planet for a man, he's never going to leave. So who would you have to become that? That's your development path. Let's get you to be that woman. The reason I'm with my husband wasn't because he was better at loving me than anyone else. Actually, I don't even know if that was true when I met him. He was actually not that great at the beginning. But I knew I could love him better than any woman I could imagine. I had cultivated myself into the kind of woman that could love him, heal his family system, heal his relationship to emotions, help him learn to regulate his nervous system, help him stop using anger and more transparent honesty about his hurt. I was willing to do whatever it takes to help him reach his greatness. And that's what he fell in love with. You know, you don't fall in love with another person. You fall in love with who you get to be around them, who you get to be because of them, through them. So become the most extraordinary woman that you can fathom, and you will then attract the most extraordinary man. And you want to know where someone's self-esteem is, just look at who they're dating. Their self-esteem around relationships. And most of my work is basically helping people raise their self-esteem so that they can attract the highest caliber partner possible.
Totally. And that gets left out of the conversation a lot of the time is, where is your worthiness? Where is your self-esteem? And the fact that you can have that at any age, at any expression, right? Like Regina went through this process in her 60s and is having the best sex and the deepest love and the best partnership of her whole life. And we're like cheering her the fuck on, right? Like it's never too late. You can always go through this process. You can always find your worthiness. You can always find true love.
Or cultivate it. Now, remember with you and Regina, like cultivating your worthiness had a lot to do with supporting you in learning how to love in a way that was exquisite. You would call me up and you go, Annie, you would be so proud of me. He was giving me this issue and he didn't text me back. And here's how I handled it with this elegance and grace. And I knew you would sign your name triumphantly to how you handled that. That's what increases your self-esteem. I tell a lot of my female clients, when you're in the middle of a situation that's difficult, ask yourself, what would the most extraordinary woman in the world do here? Just think about it and then do that, right? This is how you become that version of yourself.
So in my journey, right, that you've really been shepherding me through, it was like, okay, from unworthiness to so much more worthiness. And then I dated a series of men who were like kind of phenomenal in their own right and amazing matches for me, but weren't quite it. And then I met the man that I'm currently dating, and you did impart in our work together this level of audacity in me because what happened, he had a lot of avoidant tendencies, also going through a lot of heartbreak, a big grieving process, didn't want to be in partnership, didn't expect to meet me. And then all of a sudden it was just like, boom, we were there. We were in each other's lives. And I flew to go live with him in Australia for a period of time. And when he pushed me away at first, right, like I packed up all my stuff. I left my home. All my friends were cheering me on. And I got there, and within the first week, right, all of his pain and fear came up. And he pushed me away super hard. And old Layla would have felt so unworthy of that love. And so in her story that I would have been like, I'm unlovable. I'm rejected. I hate the universe. I'm going back home again. I hate this person. I'm fucking done, right? You show me a single sign that you don't want me and I will bail because I'm so afraid of getting my heart ripped out and getting, heartbroken and rejected because I'm so afraid that I'm that unworthy, and that'll just prove it to me even
if he
further.
pushed you away, then you would take that as truth rather than terror. That's the reframe.
Absolutely. And I was like, he's testing me. He's in fear. And even if this is real, while he was going through such a process of pushing me away in a way that was like so painful, I had the audacity to look him in the eyes and be like, look, if you want to destroy this love and push me away and burn this to the ground, I can't stop you. I actually won't stop you. But here's the thing. People wait lifetimes to find this kind of love. And if you want to destroy it, I will not help you. And I'm going to stand here and make you leave, even if it tears me to shreds, because I will not leave a love like this. And even if you want to try and make me behave in a way that can then make it easier and you can justify us having to break up, I refuse to do it. You're going to have to sit here with the truth of who I am, the truth of what this is, and then live with the consequences of your choices. And I'm not going anywhere. And it was so radical. It was so just like, and I knew that you would be cheering me on in that moment. It was so potent because, exactly as you were saying, I was innovating from scratch. I wasn't just going through a playbook. I wasn't like, bailing because like Instagram dating advice would tell me to. I wasn't like licking my wounds and going home so I didn't get hurt further. I was literally like, you can rip my fucking heart out, but at least I can stand by the fact that when I found this kind of love and partnership, I didn't say no. I stayed in it.
I exactly, and I wanna double down on that, I remember the conversations we had about that, and there was still a double bind. There was a part of you still that was like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here, I don't deserve this, can't he recognize I'm a goddess?" Like, you still had all that, and I wanna speak to that because a lot of women will have that narrative in their mind, and what you were doing and what we were standing for is, "I'm gonna love you no matter how much you push me away. I'm just gonna love you. I'm not gonna leave, and even more, I'm not gonna act in a way that then justifies you being angry and pushing me away, because when we're hurt, we act crazy, we retaliate, we do all kinds of shit. You kept acting in a way that you could be proud of and that was commensurate with you saying, "I'm in love with you." What it means to say I'm in love with you, remember, means I'm willing to feel your rejection, the pain, the heartbreak, the rage, the confusion, the jealousy. I'm willing to feel it and still stand for this relationship and know that our love and this relationship is bigger than any momentary feeling coming up.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of courage because you're alone. It's not like you have anyone else other than me in your ear going, "I believe in this. I'm standing for this, and I'm not going to give up." I'm not going to give up, that resolute faith is a big part of making love work. Having faith in something when all the evidence currently or in the past indicates that there's no reason to believe in the relationship. You had no evidence that this was gonna work.
No.
In fact, the evidence was like, "This guy is trying to push you away, it's gonna be over," and I said, "Fuck the evidence." It's all based on you being a visionary leader and literally creating from scratch the dream that you want, but you gotta dream it and you gotta protect your dream no matter what the world sends you.
Yeah.
And that's what allows you to succeed in business, in relationship, as an artist. It's the audacious faith to believe in something so good, true, and beautiful that it cannot help but come true.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, if there's people listening in being like, well, how do I know if I should do that? Well, all the men before that showed me they're crazy and I was like, I'm out. Or, they wanted to bail and I was like, great, I'm done. And as you said with him, I was like, I can't leave. I don't know where this comes from, number one. And you've also said to me, it's you end up with the person where you can love their crazy. And so I was like, hey, look, this is your crazy. And for whatever reason, I fucking love you. It doesn't make me love you any less. Like, I can be with your crazy. He can be with mine. And it was just true. It's not some model then. And it's a crazy thing about true love. You can't have an exact model because then you wouldn't have to be an artist. You wouldn't have to innovate from scratch. So if you could now use the Layla playbook, it wouldn't be instructive, right? I had to be there sitting on the beach, sitting in his home, and I had to moment by moment feel into what was absolutely true for me and then respect when it was so radical and absurd and such a like audacious stand for love that I was like, who the fuck is this that is just like putting a stake in the ground and being like, this is motherfucking true love. And like, even inside myself, I was like, I could get so hurt. And I was like, you know what? Shred my fucking heart. I was like, Leila, how many heartbreaks have you been through in this lifetime? You don't think you can survive heartbreak? Whatever. You can go do some plant medicine ceremonies, cry your ass out in the jungle and start all over again. What are you so afraid of? What's more terrifying? Finding true love and running away. So like, stand for it, be with it, and the audacity and the willingness to be in the truth of what was happening between us, like, fed me, inspired me, enlivened me. It was so
It
fucking
reinvented
good.
you, actually. It reinvented you. You got reinvented by that moment of audacity, and every couple that falls in love literally recreates what love is from scratch.
Yeah.
So you can't copy anyone else. It's like someone trying to do Picasso. I want to be an artist, so I'm going to do Picasso. No, you got to do your own thing. Picasso can give you some head nods, like I can give you some map routes, like I gave you, but each couple has to reinvent love from scratch with their own hero's journey. that's very unique and private to them and always feels like you're going to die, right, Layla? It feels like I'm going to die,
Yeah.
but this is one's worth dying for. But
Yeah.
you never die.
Well, you have to also die to the part of you that wants to go on autopilot. You know, you have to die to the part of you that wasn't willing to stand for true love. You wanted comfort or something else, or your egoic story, or your fear of the pain of dad, whatever it was. And I really feel like one of the things you helped me get to was like, I don't want to end this lifetime and say that I made my own fear of heartbreak and loneliness and failure more important than my willingness to go for and choose true love at all costs, right? And it was interesting because, you know, my guy, he would say, like, this is such a high stakes table, right? Like, we're playing at a high stakes table. And I feel like true love is probably the highest stake game you can play in a human body. And it's always terrifying. You wouldn't be at a high stakes table if there wasn't something so potent to lose. And yet the willingness to step up and play the game is so incredibly important. And I think one of the things that you've taught me that is so, so valuable is no one has the playbook, because if you had a playbook, it wouldn't be true love. The universe wants you to be an artist of love. And the only way you can find your way into that is by actually listening to your own heart, your own truth, being audacious, living the whole thing fully. And sometimes we have this idea of like, oh, what if I fail? Or what if I get it wrong? Or what if this or that? It's like, so what? That's part of playing the game. And
you're guaranteed fail if you don't try.
Totally.
You're just guaranteed. So at least you get a lotto ticket to try when you make a commitment to standing for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, for people who aren't in a relationship yet that's true love, I want people to know that every relationship is a school. It's an educational platform. It's a dojo. And each partner is either the one or practice for the one. And when you're playing in an Olympic Games, and true love is an Olympic game, you don't go to your rehearsal and your workout in the morning and bring a half-assed version of your performance. You bring your A game to every rehearsal for the Olympics. And so whoever you're dating, they're either the one or practice for the one. So you always bring your A game, so you're honing it. And you treat each person that you meet, especially if you're single, treat each person that you meet as an avatar sent back in time from your future soulmate, interviewing you to see where you are in your development. Are you ready for true love yet? Like if you're a woman and you're interested in men, every man you meet, Starbucks barista, stranger at a party, the traffic control guy, every man you meet is an avatar for the divine masculine, and they're interviewing you to see if you're ready to send your soulmate in. So treat every man with that dignity, that prowess, that sophistication. And if you're a woman, if you're a man, treat every woman that you meet, old, young, waitress, whoever, whether you're attracted to them or not. Imagine that after they meet you, they're going to go home and write an email to your future soulmate and go, this is where he's at.
All right, real quick. I'm actually, because we talked about this before we started the podcast, we're both jet lagged from the Egypt trip, the 10 days in Egypt. We're both tired. So I'm going to have a little bit of sex magic really quick. I'm going to do it fast because you can't have it with me, unfortunately, which you would be having it with me if you were in LA. It's going to be giving me a tiny bit of energy. And sex magic is like my favorite thing right now. It's my elixir that I made. It's this amazing dust that you can mix into any liquid. And it gives you this like glittery, buzzing, alive feeling, which is so, so good. You can take it before sex, but you can also take it in the middle of your workday and your podcast if you just want a little bit of lift. We're going to do that. And then we're going to finish strong.
So what's the packaging?
The packaging is this like iridescent rainbow. I know, it's so magical. Oh my God, it smells amazing too. People are always like, what's in it? Shilajit, Huperzine A, Vicuna pruriens. I think it has desert hyacinth in it, like an actual flower that grows in the desert in Los Angeles. That's like a proven aphrodisiac. It's so cool. Oh, hey there. I am stirring up a cup of my favorite elixir. So this is Sex Magic. And this is an incredible product from the sexy supplement company Mood. It's my company. We formulated this with an all-female team of scientists to be able to activate your Eros. So it can help you feel tingly. It can bring more energy into your life, more creativity. And if you take it under the right circumstances, you can have better sex. So I love taking this before sex magic with my partner. I love taking it, honestly, when we get home from date night and I'm like, whoa, I ate too much chicken. How am I ever going to get in the mood? I also like taking it after a long day of work when I'm also like, I don't even want to go to the dinner and eat the chicken. So got to drink this before we even eat the chicken and then maybe afterwards to get in the mood. You know what I'm saying? And what it does is it just opens up my body. It opens up my heart. I feel tingly. I feel alive. Sometimes it helps me have a better orgasm. And it is sugar-free. It's sweetened with monk fruit. That beautiful purple color comes from beetroot and blueberries. And it is just this incredible mix of ingredients like shilajit and huperzine A and mucuna pruriens. So special. If you were feeling called to check it out, you can head over to shopmood.com. That's shopmood, MOOD.com. And there's a special discount code for being part of this Tantric Life. It is this Tantric Life 15. So you're just going to enter that at checkout and you're going to get 15% off of your first order. Oh man, I had this story that I wanted to tell that like what you were just sharing brought up for me. And now I can't remember what it was because I'm that tired. I was just like this. I was like, oh, we got to tell this story. Oh yeah. One of the most audacious things you ever did, right? Because that guy that I referenced that I had fallen like so in love with.
Yeah.
I told my partner, he told his partner, we were fully transparent. We never cheated, but my God, we were so fucking in love. It was crazy, like so mind-blowingly in love. We didn't see each other for 9 months. And you convinced him to come to my birthday and then hid him in a bedroom and then blindfolded me and then took the blindfold off. And he was sitting there in a chair. And it was one of the like sexiest, most surprising moments of my whole life. And you masterminded it out of your own audacity. You reached out to him and you were like, hey, I have this wild idea. And so what I love is like when you talk about being like audacious and an artist of love and just like outrageous, you totally live that. It's so amazing. You're like, on assignment from the universe to cause mischief in service of true love.
And Machiavellian about it too. I mean, when I'm working with a client or a friend and I'm standing for the true love possibility for them, I will do whatever it takes. That's one of the reasons I'm a coach and not a therapist. I don't want to lose a license. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. I have a very strong ethical model that I'm always in service of someone's greatness. But once I check my intentions and I know I'm in service of their greatness, fuck all the rules. I'm going to do whatever it takes for them to wake the fuck up to their own beauty, their own poetry, their own possibility. And that audacity that I have only comes because I'm on a dharmic imperative. I know there's a lot of relationship and love coaches out there, and a lot of them are extraordinary, and they're on team love. But I don't know anyone else who's self-appointed to protect the most sacred idea I know of, that true love is possible and it's available for every human. And the first requirement in order to have it is to have the courage and the audacity to believe in it, even when the evidence says otherwise.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm standing for every human being, to have that experience before they die. And I want to be clear, it's not happily ever after. Get rid of happily ever after. It's alive ever after. It's the full spectrum. To be in love is to be willing to feel the full spectrum. So if you want the adventure of being in love and you're willing to feel the extent of aliveness that comes with it, true love is for you. Otherwise, it cannot be recommended.
And I love that because I've taught people how to be fully alive in sex and eros. Like that's been my dharmic calling. And now I'm joining full team love as well. How to be fully alive in love and the magic of that and the beauty of that and just the everythingness of that. If it's what you want, it's worth giving everything for, just like Eben says.
Yeah, John Paraballo has my favorite quote about love. He says, the difference between love and true love is the difference between a very large number and infinity.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stop short of infinity in this lifetime.
And that's, I ran a lot of your algorithms, your teachings through my, brain, my nervous system computer. Brain is.
I remember saying to you once, you're supposed to be with the most inspiring human you've ever met.
Yep.
Most extraordinary man. And a lot of clients say to me like, really? And they write that down. Like, oh, that's a good way to put it. And it seems so obvious to me that you would never settle for anything less than being with the most extraordinary person you've ever met. and making yourself into the most extraordinary person so that they would feel the same way. And not the most extraordinary person in the world, but the most extraordinary, inspiring person you've ever met.
Yeah.
That's who you should be with. And anything less is settling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tall order, right? And then again, that worthiness comes in of like, can I be with the most magnificent person I've ever met? Yeah, like that's what you actually have to believe. And I ran those questions that you taught me through my system when I was deciding to stay or go, right? Because I was at a point with Andrew where it was like, I'm either going to get married and have a kid and be here for the rest of my life, or I have to be out. And I asked myself the question, can I love you better than anyone else on the planet, right? Which you taught me that in the way that you love. And when I looked at our partnership, I was like, I actually believe that there's a woman who could love Andrew better than me, if I'm really honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what you taught me as well was like, well, how dare I then be taking the seat, the place of some woman who could love him better than me? Like, that's not true love. And I love Andrew so much. How could I take that spot, right? So being honest about that. Am I with the most magnificent person I've ever met? Here's the thing. Andrew is a fucking magnificent king.
Yeah.
And to some woman, he is the most magnificent man they've ever met in their entire life, unquestionably, right? And with Andrew, I had to pause a little bit because of our dynamic, right? It's not that he's magnificent to the rest of the world or someone else. It was in our dynamic, the places where we fell short, where our alchemy fell short, where us being playmates fell short. So I ran that through the algorithm and I was like, oh, I'm not with the most magnificent person I've ever met. To me, even though Andrew's magnificence is unquestionable to me, right? And his kingness is unquestionable to me. It was like so clear to me in asking those questions, like, okay, there is a part of me here that's not all the way in, that's not standing for the best thing possible. And if I'm not standing for the best thing possible, I'm also not standing for the best thing possible for him, right? And in that, every man that I dated, I would put through the lens of like, are you the most magnificent person I've ever met? And I'd kind of squint my eyes and I'd want them to be the most magnificent person I'd ever met, but they weren't, and I had to be really honest about that and really true with myself. And then when I met this man, I was like, oh, fuck, you're the most magnificent man I've ever met. Ah! Q terror, Q terror, Q terror.
Q terror. And I really want to mark that out. I don't really believe a couple's in love until they confess secretly to me at some point. I'm fucking terrified. I'm afraid. Or they start acting like that. Because it takes, we talked about dying. You have to die into an us. There's all kinds of things that you had in your selfhood that you have to offer on the altar of us. And it kind of like a caterpillar dies into a butterfly. If you're willing to identify as the future butterfly, your new improved self, like I had to die. A version of me had to die to be in this relationship, and it was agonizing. But the version of me that was being reborn in my marriage, she's infinitely more magnificent, more powerful, more influential. Think of your partner as a sacred mirror, and their job is to reflect back to you your beauty, your intelligence, your magnificence, your uniqueness, and reflect back to all the places you fall short of your own greatness, your unconscious patterns, your defense strategies, your wound-driven behaviors. My favorite metaphor for this is Michelangelo carving David out of marble. He said he saw David inside the marble and he just carved away everything that wasn't David. So when you fall in love with someone, you offer yourself up as a block of marble. And your partner, while they look like they're criticizing and giving you feedback, what they're actually doing is carving away all the moments where you go into pattern, wound, defense mechanism. They're carving away what's not you, to reveal and emancipate the magnum opus of your essence inside the marble. And you can ask them to use better bedside manner as they're carving away what's not you and giving you feedback. And when you give feedback to your partner, when you ask them to change or you say what is not working for you, you want to do your best to take off the shame, blame, and make wrong and take it from WTF energy, like, why the hell didn't you do the XYZ? And translate it into what I call MLK, stands for Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, out of anyone, had every reason in the world to be, what the fuck? But he didn't. He found a way to say, I have a dream, and he inspired a nation with his motivational, inspirational narrative about what's possible without making anyone wrong or shaming. And so if he can do it, we can do it. If you can find a way to tell the people you love what you see in them, in their greatness, in their future, without shaming or blaming who they are now, you're much more likely to get a shift in their behavior.
All right, so a few final rapid fire questions. And first of all, just thank you. I just want to say it again. Me and Regina were talking the other day. We were just like, we wouldn't be here without Annie. We wouldn't be in this level of partnership, this level of love, this level of audacity, this level of worthiness without Annie and your wisdom and your cartography and your stand for true love. And I know that you had your own challenges, your own path. Like, it's not like you just were born this way. You had to choose it over and over and over again. You had to chisel yourself and your belief in true love. And I know the work that it's taken for you. And literally you've changed my entire life and reality and so many other people's. You truly are birthing true love on this planet, and you're helping people create children in true love partnerships, which is one of the greatest gifts and services to humanity that I could possibly imagine. So I would love to hear from you. What are some things that you wish more people knew about true love?
Well, I've talked a lot about how glorious it is and amazing, and it takes some work, but it also, um, I have different definitions of true love, and one of the least glamorous definition is whoever's worth the suffering. Because relationships takes energy, work, and there's suffering around having to accommodate a different set of values. And my husband, I have suffering around his crazies. He's got all kinds of crazies, but he's the only man I've ever met that net is worth the suffering. So instead of going for, oh, well, where's the relationship where there's no suffering, where there's no pain, where there's no conflict, there's no drama, let go of all that and just who's got the ROI, who's worth it. And to see conflict not as an indicator that you're not matched, but conflict is an indication that you have two strong people who are standing fiercely for different sets of values. And every conflict is a collaboration wanting to happen, or it's a collaboration that goes wrong. So conflict is what happens when a collaboration gets undermined by either coercion or collapse. And so you can always rescue a conflict by getting curious and trying to understand what the other person's standing for. You can turn a conflict into a collaboration where you learn about your partner's different values and create something new together cooperatively, rather than strong arm, coerce, threaten, or collapse and give up on your truth, both of which undermine intimacy. So I wish more people knew it takes work, and it takes a willingness to um, learn to repair and de-escalate conflict, which is basically what I map, because I think that's the place where people fall down and give up on true love prematurely. And I guess that leads to the second point. Don't ever give up. Whether you're single, and I was 38 when I found my partner, okay? Everyone would have said, "Oh, I'm over the hill." I refused to settle, and thank goodness I refused to settle. So don't ever give up. And here's the key. If you're dating someone from over a year, that's enough time to do all the research through seasons, through different moods, through different situations. After a year, you've done enough research. You don't have to get married then, but just know there's no more new data coming in after a year. If after a year you're still not sure, then they're not the one. That's the harsh truth. They're not the one. In your heart and your soul of soul, after a year, you already know if this is your life partner or not. A quick hack is, if you want kids, is to have a meditation where you ask your future child, is this your daddy? Is this your mommy? And you'll get a quick sense. Yeah, so it's work, never settle. And realize that every single interaction you have with another human being's heart, every single interaction with another human's heart is practice for your future romantic partnership. So treat every human being's heart as if they were somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody's wife, somebody's parent, and start practicing how you love at large so you get good at loving in specific when your partner shows up.
And for the women listening who caught the point you made, that like the number one thing you work on with them is their self-esteem, what helps a woman raise her self-esteem so that she can attract true love?
First thing, realizing that she won the lotto. She got to exist. She made it through all the barriers, all the customs officers into this universe to exist. And fuck yeah, that means you're magnificent. You were curated by the universe because of your particular magnificence and beauty and intelligence. And it's an indignity to that lotto ticket to forget and surround yourself with people and um, surround yourself with people who reflect that back to you. Curate your tribe. And in terms of raising your self-esteem, I said this earlier, but every time you act in the world, especially in conflict situations where there's tension or pain or frustration, act in a way that you would be proud of. That if you were on a giant reality TV show and everyone in the audience were people you admired, and everyone in the audience were also all your future selves, what would you have to do right now to know that the audience would be clapping for you? Whatever you would have to do to get the standing ovation in that imaginary audience, do that. That's how you build your self-esteem, is because what I'm asking you to do is act in a way that is commensurate with your values. Here's your values, here's your behavior. The bigger the gap between your values and your actual behavior, the lower your self-esteem. So the trick to raise your self-esteem is to start acting more and more aligned with your values, and then you will be out there in the world doing your bird call and your partner will find you. And make sure you're doing your bird call. If you're single, you have to be in settings where you do your passion, the thing that you're most inspired by so others can see you doing it, and that's your bird call, and that's how your partner will find you.
Yeah, and you've always said that, right? And you got to like own your passion, own yourself, own who you are. And it's funny, when I went to Burning Man, the guy I was most interested in that I was dating, I was literally dating like 4 people, was like, I was teaching sex magic, co-ed sex magic at Burning Man, and I was a little like, ooh, like I'm not even sure he'd be okay with that, right? Like I'm not even sure that he would celebrate that. And there I am teaching co-ed sex magic, and the guy I'm with now literally got his workshop canceled, rode across the playa, forced his way into the workshop even though Emily Fletcher was guarding the door, sat down, watched me teach co-ed sex magic, said the moment that I was like holding this like massive court and everyone was in ecstatic rapture, and I was like, I just want to remind you that everything you're feeling is yours. All of this power is yours. All of this magic is yours. I'm just a guardian of this work. I own none of it, and I'm just here to support you. He was like, I felt totally in love with you in that moment because I knew who I was dealing with when I saw you do that. And it's such a testament to what you teach. I wasn't like sitting around being like, oh, let me like chase a man who doesn't want me. I was like, no, I'm fucking teaching hundreds of people co-ed sex magic. And then bam, the man who falls in love with that, because that's such an expression of my heart, soul, and essence, is the match.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then for men, what's the number one thing that you wish more men knew to be in true love partnership?
You want a queen? If you want a goddess, really take on treating every single woman, married, single, young, old, every single woman, treat them as if they're an avatar of the goddess, as practice for when you find your woman. Okay, you're not like, oh, she's just the waitress or she's just the neighbor. You treat every single woman as if it's an opportunity to hone the very refined craft of relating to a woman as if she is happening once and for all and never again, which is what your woman's going to want to feel from you. And so you have to love the way you treat women to deserve a queen.
And why go for a queen rather than arm candy?
You man or woman, but I'm speaking to the men right now. You can make all the money in the world, you can have the high status, you can have the jet, you can have the boat, you can have all the accolades. And if you haven't felt the fulfillment of true love in this lifetime before you die, you will never feel truly successful. And when I say the fulfillment of true love, I mean you look into a woman's eyes who you know to be the most extraordinary mind, heart, and soul that you've ever encountered. And when she looks at you, you know she loves you every single bone, every single crazy, every single part of your suboptimal personality. And she says, I fucking love you. To have that in a partner means you're capable of anything. All the success you have will be amplified exponentially. Nothing wrong with arm candy, and there's nothing wrong with a beautiful woman. And she deserves to be with a man who looks at her like she's the most extraordinary human he's ever met. And so unless you're able to look in a woman's eye and feel equal, like two wings on one bird, and that every decision you make in your life would only be edified and increased in quality by adding her to the consideration, that kind of partnership literally creates new realities, creates new worlds. I would love to see a future where every company, every country, every leadership position was held by a couple in love, so that any decision being made has to be run through both of their nervous systems, both of their value sets, both of their creativities, and they're so strong that neither one would collapse or coerce each other. A decision that comes out of that struggle, where both of them have to sign their name to, it's a very trustable decision. We need more couples in love leading, and ultimately every child born is to two leaders. And I want them to be in love. I say that I don't work for the couple, I work for the unborn children of the couple. And so I'm influencing the next generation by making sure that people who procreate are actually in love and in it for the long run, as much as possible. So that's what I'd say.
Annie! All right. So tell our audience, where can they find you? How can they work with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram. My handle is Lallabird, LALLABIRD. I'm always putting out videos and teaching my latest ideas. You can follow me there. My website is Annie. What is my website? You can tell I'm so tired right now.
I know. It was a long Egypt trip. Yeah, lots of magic. Not a lot of sleep.
Gosh, no sleep. I think it's 4 a.m. for me right now. It's AnnieLalla.com. Annie with 2 N's, Lalla with 2 L's. And yeah, just join my tribe. I'm always sending out, I'm doing projects with my husband. We teach seminars. I teach programs. If you're an aspiring relationship coach, I've just started teaching a relationship coaching program. So you can learn my tools and tricks. And just, follow me. Follow me, and I'll share as much as I can for your journey.
Well, thank you for always, always, always being there. You've been there with me and for me in the darkest moments, the moments of struggle, the moments of doubt. And then you've celebrated the hell out of me and all of my triumphs. And I love you forever.
I'm so proud of you, Layla. You so deserve to be worshipped. And I'm so glad you found someone who you feel worthy of standing beside.
Thank you so much for being here, for listening to this Tantric Life. Thank you for making it to the end of a podcast. That is an accomplishment. And if you want to learn more, if you want practical tools and guidance in Tantra and sacred sexuality, then head on over to laylamartin.com, sign up with your email address. You're probably like, email, what is this, 1996? Let me tell you, my emails are special. They're also so not safe for work that we send them on Sundays because they are chock full of some of the most licentious education that you are ever going to find. So I share in-depth tantric trainings, practical tools that you can incorporate into your life every single day. I also talk about really embarrassing and shocking moments from my own life as I guinea pig this entire tradition for myself in my own life. And if you want to stay connected, that is the way to stay connected. We also have incredible resources there. So if you want to learn sex magic, breath work, couple sex practices, tantric sexuality, on the website, you can get those trainings for free if you head over and check it out, laylamartin.com. Finally, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Don't miss a single reel. That's at the Layla Martin. You can also follow me on YouTube to make sure you don't miss any of these podcasts. That is Layla Martin. And thank you once again so much, so much, so much for being here. I can't wait to share more with you.